It's a long way to the top. If you want to rock and roll, you want to rock and roll? Driving on the highway, going to a show. Stopping on the byway, playing rock and roll. Getting round, getting stoned, getting beat up, getting boned, getting high, getting shook. I'll show you folks, it's harder than it looks. It's a long way to the top if you wanna rock and roll. It's a long way to the top if you wanna rock and roll. It's either do one night stands, try being a rock and roll band. It's a long way to the top if you wanna rock and roll.
Good evening, race fans. It's your host, Caden Reif. Welcome back. It's the NASCAR Coca-Cola Cup Series here as we get set on race number 17 out of 36. It's the Firecracker 400 here from Daytona as we approach the midway point in the season. Bit of plate racing action under the lights on a Sunday night, July 2nd of 2006. Take you to the racetrack for your starting lineup here tonight as Casey Kane in the 38 car is your pole winner, joined by Casey Atwood on the front row. A couple of Caseys up front. Looking down the rest of your starting grid is Jeff Gordon in the 24 will start from third place, and it's championship leader Robbie Gordon in fourth. Fifth place will be Kevin Harvick in the 20, last week's winner, and Jack Sprague will be in sixth in the 55. Jimmy Johnson qualifies in seventh, and Jason Leffler P8. DJ Kennington making his Cup Series debut in the 81 for Gibbs. He'll be in ninth, and Kyle Busch starts from 10th place. 11th will be Dale Earnhardt Jr., and Kurt Busch will be in 12th behind his brother Kyle. 13th, Brian Vickers, and 14th, Mark Martin. Tony Stewart will be P15, joined by his teammate Jamie McMurray in 16th. Martin Truex Jr. will be P17, and Scott Wimmer 18th place. Greg Biffle will be in P19, followed up by Newman in 20th, Bobby Labonte 21st, and Ricky Hendrick in the 22nd position. Regan Smith will be P23, and 24th belongs to Elliott Sadler, Johnny Sauter 25th, and Christian Elder in the 26th position. Clint Boyer will be 27th place, and Carl Edwards starts in 28th. 29th will be Sterling Marlin in the 22, and 30th goes to Scott Riggs. 31st will be Todd Bodine, and Jeff Green in the 32nd position. Matt Kenseth will be in 33rd, joined by his teammate John Wood, and yet another Roush car in a row. It's 35th Jason Keller. 36th will be John Andretti in the 21, Terry Labonte in the 37th spot, and Jeremy Mayfield in 38th position in the 26 car. 39th will be Eric Norris, and Ricky Rudd in 40th. Rounding out the field in the last row, it'll be Ron Hornaday Jr. in the 78 and Morgan Shepherd in the 89, backing up this 42-car grid. Take you to the track for the most famous words in motorsports. Here, the command for the Firecracker 400.
Drivers, start your engines.
42 stock cars roar to life as they always do as we are set to roll under the lights here in July. Midsummer action from Daytona. And as always is expecting a lot of three wide, a lot of contact, potential crashes here and there. Daytona's always a wild card, the plate races are always a wild card, and in this point in the season, it's where you start thinking about trying to bring it home and secure your position in the championship. You think about working upwards in the championship. It's an opportunity for a lot of gains and a lot of losses under the lights here.
And this is a racetrack that, you know, very steep banking, but the apron completely flat. So if you see crashes, a lot of times people will slide up the banking and it will cause absolute mayhem. So you got to watch out for that if you're anybody who has a chance at the championship here. But also, this is a track and a style of racing that really does suit inexperienced drivers. You know, you sit in the pack, you just have to place yourself at the right spot at the right time. And we see a lot of first-time winners of this kind of racing, so don't be surprised if somebody breaks through today.
Without a question, we saw Regan Smith collect his first victory in the Cup Series at Talladega last time we were at a plate race. And, of course, the Daytona 500, uncharacteristically a wreck fest. We saw 3 separate big crashes in that race. Took a lot of people out of it, made it about just 11 or so cars up at the front grid to finish that race. So it's really just about keeping your race car clean. And going into Daytona for the second time in the season, might we see a cleaner race, or with the way that the Daytona night race is usually gone, will it be more dirty? We will see. 58 lap race here tonight as Casey Kane will lead the field to the green in the restart box, and we are underway here from Daytona. Headed into turn number 3 as we round this first lap. Casey Kane going to drop out of the lead from the pole. Instead, it'll be Jeff Gordon in the 24 car who is looking to try and lead this opening lap as he takes the field off at turn number 4. And it will be the 24 to lead the opening round around this 2.5-mile racetrack. Kane all the way down into 4th place as Gordon leads a line of Chevrolets on the bottom. Kevin Harvick follows through, but Gordon going to force him a little bit up the racetrack to take his teammate Jimmy Johnson with him on the bottom. Couple of Hendrick cars in the lead early. 42 stock cars roar to life as we are 2x2 throughout the pack. Jimmy Johnson leaves out his Hendrick teammate, is going to go to the bottom for the race lead. And the big story, DJ Kennington now in the 81 car. He has been absolutely lighting up the Busch Series, replacing Mike Bliss, who has had a career to forget at Joe Gibbs Racing. But DJ Kennington, somebody who I think we're going to hear a lot about in the coming years. He is a very, very talented race car driver, and he's getting a full chance here today. Without a question, and it's certainly a big race to make your debut in. And of course, people in the garage, journalists and drivers alike, really seem to like the guy in Kennington, who is an ex-CASCAR driver up in Canada north of the border. Making the move down to NASCAR, has been with Gibbs the last 2 seasons in Busch. And Coach Joe saw something in this kid and given him a chance to run the full rest of the season, at least all the races he can in the 81 car, and make an opportunity of it. He's got 3 wins in the Busch Series, has over a race's worth of points over second place, which belongs to Justin Allgaier after this weekend's Saturday night race yesterday. And we saw him perform well in that race too. He led the most laps in that race, didn't get a top 10. It was a race ending of his top 5 streak that he had going. He had 8 consecutive races where he'd finished in the top 5 in the Busch Series. Nothing short of impressive for him, and there's a lot of expectations surrounding him, but a lot of people seem to think that he has the talent to match them.
Another young driver to talk about, the person in second in points. He's not in this race today, but keep an eye out for Justin Allgaier in the future. He swept Daytona this season. So if he ever gets a chance up in the Cup Series in coming years, this track could become something very, very special for that young man. He is an 18-year-old rookie, and he has proven that this style of racing is his forte. And DJ Kennington, not too bad himself. up here in second place.
Without a question, as Dale Jr. blocked him to get underneath Jimmy Johnson for the lead, so the 88, a familiar front runner here early in the going, but Kennington might be trying to take that lead as they head into turn number 1. Does he get the nose underneath the 88? He will here, or maybe not. No, never mind. Junior just about had enough of a run to stay in front of him. Thought he might get the nose underneath, couldn't do it. Between the 88 and Biffle, a couple of Fords on the bottom line, sandwiching that Chevrolet as they head down the backstretch right now with the 16 down on the bottom, looking to take second. Kennington trying to keep him at bay, and does. The Kennington's teammate, Bobby Labonte, a couple of rows behind in the 18 as well, Daytona 500 winner. And leaving turn 4, Earnhardt Jr. still in the lead ahead of this 81 car.
And don't look now, but down there on that bottom lane up near the front, Regan Smith, the winner of the Talladega race. So someone who has proven that he can win at this kind of racetrack. It's been a up and down season for the rookie, but Regan has done a good job on these kind of races. Would not shock me at all to see him win another one today. And how about that 68 up here as well? Good run for him.
It'll be Johnny Sauter driving for the Aiken 68 car, having a good run. Here comes rookie DJ Kennington trying to take the lead away from who is widely considered to be the Cup Garage's best plate racer, as Kennington takes his teammate Labonte with him. And here comes the rookie in his debut race. He'll lead a lap here off at turn 4, providing he can hold it.
Yeah, and I mean, you can't say enough about this kid. I mean, everything that he has done is beyond impressive, given, you know, the limited experience he's had in this specific kind of race car. He was a cast car driver, but, you know, those cars are a little different. And he came over here and just immediately started to perform. You can't say enough about him. I think Joe Gibbs may have made a really good decision.
Absolutely, and it is going to be even more exciting to see him full-time in the Cup Series next year, as was teased in that he'll be in that 81 car to run next season. Down the backstretch is the 2 Gibbs cars on the outside, and Regan Smith trying to take the lead now on the bottom. Seeing a lot of young guns up front early in the running as we come to complete lap 7 this time, with Smith taking Sauter with him on the bottom, trying to block all the lanes. Saw Kennington lose the bottom to his teammate last time off of 4, but Smith will keep it, at least for the moment, and has that lap led.
And worth mentioning for Sauter, I mean, not very far removed from a gruesome injury at Homestead, just a terrible, terrible crash. And this is definitely the best run he has had since then. So big ups to Johnny Sauter. Looks like he might be starting to recover a little bit, and a great run for all of Aikens Motorsports, provided they can stay up here. That's a tall ask early in this race, but still very, very impressive to come back from injury and to still be running well at this style of racing, where it's easy to find your way back.
Absolutely, he's been doing a great job since getting back into that car. It was race 12. Around that time that he got back into the race car, Smith leads another lap in a row. Sterling Marlin in the 22 down on the bottom has his pole sitter number 38, Casey Kane, right behind, trying to take him 3 wide, and does for the race lead. An aggressive move by Kane. Sauter almost got caught 4 wide behind them, managed to slip past the 48 of Johnson there off of turn 2.
I was able to catch up with Sterling Marlin, and you know, he's an older guy, but a very respected guy in the garage area, and he says that he feels like this kind of racing is really his last opportunity to get a win in this series. And hard to say you blame him. I mean, he's had plenty of success here. I believe a 2-time Daytona 500 winner. So Sterling Marlin, you know, still the grizzled old vet he is, but he feels like if he's going to get one more, it would be at a Daytona or Talladega. So watch out for him.
Absolutely trying to get close to winning these kind of races. Seeing again close to 4 wide. That was Jimmy Johnson that time behind. But yes, Sterling Marlin. And of course, it's tough to hear from him, especially given the fact that from what it sounds around the Bill Davis garage, that they're expecting to downsize to just a singular car in the Cup Series next year, that he's probably going to be out of it after this season. And that's just tough to hear, especially with the partnership that he had with them, helping out with the development of Scott Wimmer and their star driver, that he's going to be the odd one out. But he had nothing but respect for Bill Davis, of course, and the operation. It's just business, as you say, and unfortunately going to have to look for new opportunities next year, hoping he can be in the Cup Garage at least a little bit longer, but it seems like the years are running out. But nonetheless, a fantastic career on him, and it's great to see him still having fun despite the circumstances.
For sure, and Robbie Gordon was up there leading this race. Matt Kenseth takes a look to the inside, and Kenseth has also had an up and down season. It would be nice for it would be a nice change of pace for him if he could get a win at this kind of racing, where in the past he's somewhat struggled at. He says this isn't his favorite kind of racing, but with the struggles of Roush as of late, you have to wonder, is this a really, really good opportunity for them to turn that program around?
Absolutely, and you take the fact given that Kenseth it's been over a year since he last won a race. He went completely winless in 2005, hasn't yet won a race this year, and it was late in the 2004 season that his last victory came. I believe it was in the high 20s of round count that he won his last time, and really just searching for it. They've been digging in the trenches, as they say, and Kenseth has really been looking for it, the whole team, as a matter of fact, and it's just a matter of Roush trying to find their way out of it. They've had a lot of struggles recently, a lot of controversy. We saw Jeff Burton leave in the middle of the season. Just trying to find your footing again, it's really tough for them, and Kenseth just dropped out of the lead, but nonetheless, to show strength early, that's important in a race like this.
And people underestimate just how important confidence is in racing. And when you lose your confidence as a race team, it affects everybody. And you see that speed start to suffer when you aren't running well and when the times get tough. And the times have been nothing but tough for that 17 team pretty much since that last win. And if he was able to break through and get one, Matt Kenseth is absolutely a talented driver. I think it would open the floodgates.
Without a question. And again, back to the story of young drivers up front. Here's Jason Leffler, who led that last lap, running, as he mentioned, quite a few times over the course of the season, most of the year with Haas CNC and Cup at the same time as his full-time Busch season. Looking to go full-time next year, of course, and showing some speed once again. He's had a lot of speed earlier in the year. The middle portion has been around the expectation, sitting around the 20th range, but him and Haas as a whole have done really well this year. We saw Boris Said run fairly well at Pocono a couple of weeks ago, and, of course, Jason Leffler cutting the slack, running most of the season in this car, has done a pretty good job, and running up front right now, as we mentioned, early strength, screen time's important, and that 00 out in front. But here comes another story. Here's Elliott Sadler in the 83. That team, Red Bull Racing, just announced that they're planning on opening a second operation going into the Gen 5 next year in 2007, and Sadler, who recently collected his first top 5 with the team, that was at Pocono a couple of weeks ago, almost got to the win that he hasn't won since 2001, and has been really confident surrounding that team, has really enjoyed his time in the new organization, and they really just put their faith in him. It was a big grab in free agency going into this season, and Sadler has really settled in well with Red Bull. They've had a great season up to this point, and have started to really find some proper race-winning speed lately, and Sadler looks as confident as anybody in the garage, and you can't really blame him given how well that team has ran as of late.
Yeah, and for Elliott Sadler, I would argue he's running just as well as anybody this season. Talk about maximizing your equipment. He has ran absolutely as good as you can with that race team, and they're starting to find some speed because of it. Again, that confidence factor, they have a lot of it right now, and a lot of it is in part Elliott Sadler just running really, really well, and a welcome surprise. Elliott Sadler, he hasn't really had a super loud season, but he's just always maximizing his equipment. He's running better than expected, and because of that, I think the whole team is starting to gain a little bit of mojo, a little bit of confidence.
Absolutely, and you think about it, traces back to last season about it maximizing your equipment, and when he was back with DEI before they had shuttered their doors. The last points race that his team in the 15 did that season, he won the pole at Richmond. And it's just about maximizing, and of course, he's taken the most of his opportunities, and he's earned this seat, and definitely deserves to keep it. He was on a multi-year deal going into this season, of course, so it's really worked out for him, and with the organization growing around him and finding their footing after having next to no expectations into this year, that's really the most important part, is just finding your ground, and the fact that that team has really just blown everyone out of the water from what they expected. It's a sign of good things to come for Red Bull, I'd imagine.
Absolutely. Up front, Jeff Gordon. Someone
that race
who,
lead.
and Hendrick has just had a stellar season once again.
Absolutely, but here comes Ryan Newman in the 12 on the bottom. Side by side for the race lead, we've seen a lot of lead changes take place while we've been talking stories in the early portion of this race. 1297 also on the bottom as he takes Jeff Green in the 96 for that is Hall of Fame Racing on the bottom with him. Christian Elder also making an appearance for Haas in the 0. And the 6 car of John Wood rounds out the first 5 on that bottom line. Also Eric Norris, worth noting, second in line on the top behind his 24. Of course, it's these kind of races that you get to talk about storylines the most, given that really anybody has a shot of running up front, and that is no different here tonight.
Absolutely, and Eric Norris about got into the wall there. He washed up out of line, looked like he almost got a little tight, and now he's going to slip out of the pack and go likely way far back, unless he can slip his way in somehow.
I believe he might have got a little aero help from Kevin Harvick's 20 car trying to get underneath him and take him 3 wide, and it really didn't do that 51 any favors.
No, and he's trying to get back in, but there's just not a place to get back in as he actually tapped the wall there out of 4.
We do usually see these guys get the wall. There is not a lot of room to go 3 wide at a track like this. Daytona just that little bit more narrow than Talladega. You don't really think about it until you're on the top of even the middle of 3 wide, and it really comes up on you really fast at a racetrack like this.
Yeah, but, you know, it's a double-edged sword. It creates, I would argue, better racing, but it can create some chaos. You know, when you go 3 or, God forbid, 4 wide, chaos is sure to follow if you do it for very long.
Without a question, and we've seen 4 wide work at Talladega. We usually don't see that work at this racetrack. Usually that's the cause of accidents. It was a cause of few at Daytona's earlier race in the season at the 500. Meanwhile, talking about action on the racetrack, Carl Edwards led a couple laps in a row in that 97 machine, sitting up in front of the 0 of Christian Elder, as Roush has seemed a little quick to start this race. Had a couple of their cars lead some laps so far. John Wood up here, but in the middle of 3 wide as the front of the field is really starting to bunch up now. Leaving turn 2 this time, as it is Ford, Chevrolet, Dodge in this front group, as Scott Wimmer making an appearance up front. Brian Vickers looking to take second from Christian Elder as they head into turn 3. And that is 4 wide, as we talked about. Managed to sort it out. That was John Andretti getting forced up out of line by the 55 of Jack Sprague. And everybody kept it together just about.
I think probably about 30 cars are really happy that Jack Sprague thought better of making it 4 wide in the middle of the corner, because that would have ended disastrous for half the field.
Yeah, definitely lucky that the 21 got that clear of him and managed to sort it out. These guys are getting really aggressive as we hit about 20 laps completed. In fact, it was 20 laps completed that last time by. Edwards still comfortably leading this race, has led quite a few laps in a row now, but Brian Vickers is going to try to spoil that party in the 44 on the bottom.
When he is going to get underneath him, but has no help. Andretti going to try to block Jack Sprague. He's going to be able to do that, as this bottom lane is certainly one that you don't see every day. A lot of cars that needed a good run today.
Without a doubt, as Vickers will take a lap lead. And of course, maybe seeing a little bit of tempers there between the 21 and 55, as Andretti pulled a pretty aggressive block on Sprague there in turn 3 to get to Vickers to help him to the lead.
And John Andretti sees it as just been very unfortunate. He's had a lot of bad luck come his way, just a lot of stuff not of his own doing. Had potentially a race-winning car at Bristol, I believe it was.
That was correct, yes.
Was not able to get it done there, but just overall, unfortunate season for the 21. It would be really cool to see him go back to victory lane. I think a lot of fans would like that.
Without a question, there are a lot of people that the fans would love to see win one here tonight, but still a lot of this race left. A bit of a ways left to halfway, as Vickers still in the lead. His teammate in the 55 of Sprague gets filtered back to the outside. Now Casey Atwood on the bottom will get underneath Vickers for the lead as the shuffle continues. 30 and 57 move through on the bottom.
And Casey Atwood pretty much thought his career was over at one point, but was able to resurrect it very late into the going, and now has found his way into a somewhat top cup seat and has done a pretty good job. Hasn't won a race yet, but would not surprise me to see it happen.
Without a question, Casey Atwood, of course, as you mentioned, thought his career was over at one point. He was spending his time in the Biaggi 4 car in the Busch Series when he got a call from none other than Richard Childress saying, hey, we've got the 2 car open in the Busch Series right now. We would love to have you aboard. And he took it and ran with it. Also got an offer to run this very 30 car part-time in the Cup Series, splitting it with, at the time, Lyndon Amick, who eventually was fired in the middle of the season. Casey Atwood was promoted into the car full-time, ran both series at the same time, and pretty much just sat and ran with it. He's had a great run. He had a great run last year in that car up to this point, and then this season has really just found his stride. And, of course, Atwood, one that really thought his career is over, but at the same time, this man is only 26 years old, and he's got a long career ahead of him if he can really prove that he deserves this seat. And so far this season has had a couple top 5, top 10 runs. If you ask me, he definitely deserves it.
Absolutely, and it's just a feel-good story. You hate to see careers end early, and we see it happen a lot, whether it's for sponsorship or just struggling to find the footing, or bad foot within team, or a bad chemistry with your team. And Casey, clearly a talented driver. It would have been a real shame to see him drop out of the sport, and I'm glad that he got an opportunity because he is proving a lot of people wrong right now. It's great to see.
Without a question, one of the nicer guys in the garage, and we do have a lot of nice guys in the garage, but he stands out among them. Got his teammate Robbie Gordon in the 31 right behind him, as these 2 Childress cars leading the race right around the halfway point, just a couple laps from now, and expecting a pit window eventually. Not entirely sure when that is going to take place. These teams had some mixed fuel reports going into this race, of course, but expecting that to come in soon as we near this halfway mark in the race, as Gordon, right behind his teammate, couple of Chevrolets in line there.
How about Ron Hornaday? Look at him up here in third. It's a really good run for him.
Absolutely nice run for that Furniture Row team, who have really struggled as of late, collected a couple D&Qs over the last few weeks, and nice to see him running well, though Jason Keller's going to duck underneath him for third. Robbie Gordon jumps under his teammate. 31, of course, in this championship hunt, trying to fight for most laps led. Has already led a lap today, so has those bonus points, but would look for more. 99 in line behind him. Also seeing Clint Boyer in the 4 car, as we mentioned a couple times, making his first rounds in the Cup Series these last handful of weeks, and having a good middle portion of this race as he's cut his way back through the field. Haven't been able to talk about him yet, and how about him taking it 3 wide for second place right behind the race leader, Robbie Gordon.
Clint Boyer, very, very solid run for him, and another young driver. So we're seeing a lot of young drivers up here at the front today, which is not a big surprise at a place like Daytona, but it's always good to see your young guys run well.
Look out here, getting 4 wide into the wall is Regan Smith. Big crash as everybody's out of it in the back. Hard crash, 2 cars up and over, Casey Kane and Ricky Hendrick.
Hendrick comes to rest on his wheels and will drive away, but Kane will rest on his lid as cars scramble to avoid him. Regan Smith piles in late, but a massive crash in turn 3 takes out probably 20 cars.
Huge accident going into turn number 3. You saw the 4 wide. That was Jimmy Johnson who got into the 2 of Regan Smith, or at least forced him up the racetrack, and that was the end of that. And that might have taken out more than 20. That might have taken out 30 cars.
Very well could have. We said it earlier in the going, 4 wide does not work at this racetrack. Not for any period of time.
And we'll get a look back at this accident here in turn number 3 again. You saw the 4 wide. You saw Regan Smith, who got forced up. He was getting taken 4 wide. Jimmy Johnson on the bottom, the 48, took it 4 wide there. That was for about 5th or 6th. And Regan, no room to stay off of the 78. And up and into the wall, Casey Atwood, who we were just talking about. Vicious hits there. Casey Kane and Ricky Hendrick both go upside down. Those drivers got weight shifted in completely opposite directions there. In fact, Ricky Hendrick got some help there. That was Jamie McMurray's 40 car, who got underneath him as he was sandwiched in between the banking and the apron. Also took a floor hit from Jason Keller. Casey Kane up and over the 2, the 00, 22. 0 of Christian Elder trying to find his way through and believe he got a piece. Ryan Newman also a 3rd flip. Just a short one for Newman, who went up and over. So both Penske cars involved in it. Kurt Busch, Earnhardt Jr. Scott Wimmer, Tony Stewart, Kevin Harvick. Just about every name you can think of was involved in this crash.
I'll tell you what, Ron Hornaday took a vicious lick into the outside wall. He got sandwiched in between Regan Smith and the safer barrier. And that's, man,
Hard crash.
that was really hard as he almost went up and over.
Absolutely. Andretti involved in it as well in the 21. Seeing Jeff Gordon get a piece of it. Greg Biffle
Man.
as well.
Saw Sterling Marlin take a hard hit there in the back. Unfortunate for him.
Just
I mean, he was
lot of
having a really
stories,
good
yeah.
showing.
Absolutely, a lot of good stories, and it was just the 22 almost found a way around it, but it was the 18 who got into the 5, and then Ricky Hendrick got into the 22 and backed it straight into the wall. That was Marlin. Of course, Bobby Labonte, Scott Riggs involved. Just everybody piling into that one, and that is a massive 25, even 30 car crash that all started off at the 48 and 2 in turn 3. Brings out our first caution of the race right around that halfway point. We were just a couple laps shy of it. And just, my goodness, what a vicious, vicious crash there. Took about 2/3 of the field out.
Yeah, and just unfortunate to see because a lot of those guys are having good showings early, but this is the product of this kind of racing. You see it all the time at Daytona and Talladega, where you get guys just getting desperate, making moves, and wipes out half the field, just nowhere to go.
See Robbie Gordon lead the field into the pits here on lap number 28, coming to lap 29. Him and Clint Boyer, your two leaders, as they will head into their pit box. 4-car in, Clint Boyer in the back, as Robbie Gordon a bit further up this pit order. And he will head into his box. Expecting 2 tire stops here, and we will get them. Clint Boyer away from his pit box. Robbie Gordon gets around Jeff Gordon out of his, and will win the race off of pit road.
Interesting to note, Jimmy Johnson, who is the one who kind of inadvertently started that accident, got away scot-free. So the desperation worked out for him. Didn't work out for half the field, but you gotta look out for yourself at a race like this. So
Absolutely. Scott Riggs, who was involved in that accident, still on the racetrack, so interesting call for the 57 team. Robbie Gordon will be your race leader, or at least winner off of pit road. See if the 57 stays out or not. That we will see. But be right back as we go to intermission here from Daytona with this 31 win in the race off of pit road, and Scott Riggs, at least for the moment, in the race lead. Back from intermission as we get set to go here at Daytona. Scott Riggs was EOL'd for his damaged race car, so Robbie Gordon will be the race leader. There was 13 unique drivers who DNF'd in that accident, and probably more once we have the minimum speed wipes under this run. But the 31 will lead the field to the green. It'll be him, Boyer, Johnson, Terry Labonte, and Ricky Rudd, your top 5. Coming back to the restart here will be lap number 32 as we take the green, with the points leader leading the race here. Pace car going to peel off on the left as we head towards the restart box. Robbie Gordon leads everybody back, and we are underway once again. Good start for your top 2. Couple of drivers ducking out of line. Saw Truex Jr. make a move on a Ricky Rudd for 5th place as the top 4 move away. Getting up to speed now as we hit the backstretch. Johnson
Four
looking for
cars
second.
pull away from the rest of the field for the moment. As we're definitely seeing a bit of speed differentiation, but the field's starting to string back together now.
Just took everybody
Martin
that chance to get up to speed.
Martin Truex Jr. now in the top 5. Haven't talked a lot about him today, but someone else who's had a pretty solid season.
Absolutely, it's been a solid rookie campaign. Meanwhile, for the lead, the 2 championship leaders side by side for first, as here comes the 48 of Jimmy Johnson.
Johnson going to get clear.
96 car came in for a pit stop. Scott Riggs also going to get damage repairs on his car after staying out under that last yellow. Jeff Gordon way off the pace in the 24. I believe these 3 at the very least will be taken out of the race. That would be the 22, 26, and 24. Who will all be taken out of the race due to minimum speed.
And an unfortunate end for those guys who showed a lot of speed in this race, especially Jeff Gordon, who had led a handful of laps.
Absolutely. Jimmy Johnson leading the single file lineup at the front of the field right now. Single file all the way back to Sprague in 8th, and will be more at least by the corner exit. See anybody jump out of line here down the back stretch.
How about Texas T up here in 3rd place?
Nice run for that 14 car. And problems from Mark Martin, who is having a tire go down.
He needs to get down to the bottom.
Got to the bottom of the racetrack, but held everybody up. That's going to be another caution. Or, Jesus, wrong command there, but yellow flag will come out for Martin, who held up the 16. And that brings out the 2nd caution of the night, quick succession, as Robbie Gordon leads the field back to the caution flag.
Pace car looked like it was warming its tires right now, right there. Started swerving on the apron a little bit.
Cold
ready
night
to
here
go.
in Daytona for sure. So
About
Robbie
as cold as
Gordon,
it gets here in Florida.
absolutely, Robbie Gordon, your race leader. And Mark Martin will get those tires changed. Lucky Dog will go to the 21 of Andretti.
Morgan Shepherd up here, the somewhat decent run.
One of the cars that managed to survive the accident, and he's probably thanking his lucky stars that he did. See if anybody pits here, but I would imagine the answer to that question is no. Given that
What a
we-
Daytona race it would be to remember if Morgan Shepherd went to victory lane.
Without a question. Could say a lot of interesting drivers were taken out in that crash, and problems for Greg Biffle, who he also has a tire go down, so a couple of Fords with tire issues. I believe Biffle will be able to limp it back to the pits under this yellow flag without falling a lap down. And we will see a couple pitters. See DJ Kennington heading in. I believe he will be the only one that does so. So, take you back to intermission. Robbie Gordon still in the race lead, collecting these laps led under these yellow flags, and we will be right back with the 31 first place. Back from intermission, getting set to go once again. Robbie Gordon, your race leader. It'll be him, Johnson, Truex Jr., Kyle Busch, and Terry Labonte, your top 5. 21 of Andretti was the lucky dog last time. As we get set to go underway once more, pace car will peel off on the left. It'll be 20 laps to go here from Daytona on the restart as Robbie Gordon into the restart box. Green flag waves. And he had a fantastic jump over Jimmy Johnson. See if Truex tries to make a move here. No, instead it'll be Kyle Busch for third place.
Busch recently was able to finally break through and get that first win. And you have to wonder how many more are going to follow. Because Kyle Busch is a fantastic race car driver, and he's also been vocal that this is not his favorite kind of racing, but he's doing a really good job here right now.
What can you do but perform well if you're driving at Daytona in a Petty car?
As is customary, I mean, Petty's the king of this racetrack. 7 Daytona 500 victories, most of all time by far. Kyle Busch wants to add his name to an illustrious list.
Without a question, as we head down the front stretch, Busch moved into second as he followed Jimmy Johnson, who went to the race lead. Jack Sprague looking for third on Terry Labonte, who almost jumped in front of him, but thought better of it, trying not to wreck that 14 car. Leaving turn number 2 as we head down the back now. Very small pack up front thanks to the lack of car count after those last crashes. Morgan Shepherd in 16th backs up this front pack at the moment. Good
Trying to hold
him.
on for dear life into the draft. Looks like he might lose it.
We will see. Checking up on the rest of these drivers who are damaged. Seeming fine at the moment. We'll probably have to disqualify at least a couple of them. Johnson still in the lead, has his teammate. Well, did have his teammate. Now Jack Sprague gets forced up to the top as Elliott Sadler will jump to the bottom for P2. As we head into turn 1 and the laps continuing to wind down here from Daytona. Johnson trying to claw back at Robbie Gordon's lap lead count. That 31 leading all those caution laps. Sadler with a big run down the back, see if he goes anywhere with it.
He's got to push if he does want to. Looks like he's going to stay in line for the time being.
Be a little patient, got a lot of race left.
Yeah, no reason to. And Elliott Sadler knows better than anybody. You know, don't force your stuff when you don't have to. Just try to bring it home in one piece, and you know, a second place finish would be a fantastic finish. Of course, he wants that win, but you don't want to put yourself in a stupid position with this many laps to go and end up junking your car.
Absolutely, as he sticks behind the 48 and still continues to lead. Jeff Green will be the next retiree from this race in the 96 car. Tough break for him. We've got a big pack, a big secondary pack here that is several miles an hour off the speed of the race leaders, but that's about 10 or so cars in this second group.
Shepard's still clinging on for dear life to the end of that pack. Looks like he's just barely in the draft.
Hanging on to it. Might have a shot at the top 15 if he can hang with this pack. He is running just about the same lap times as the drivers who are right at the tail end of it.
That was a big move for Johnny Sauter. Just watched him pretty much split 3 wide middle, move down in front of Eric Norris. So, 68, Johnny Sauter looking aggressive right now. He wants to win this race.
Gotta make aggressive moves when you're fighting your equipment, that's for sure. Down the back stretches, Jimmy Johnson's still leading. Nobody has tried to make a move for this lead. Looking like Todd Bodine's getting impatient with the 83, and he moves for second place.
Sauter makes a move as well.
68.
Talk about the aggression. He wants to get to that lead.
Throwing it down there. Might even get to P2 here. Had the run on Bodine heading down off of turn 4, but the 77 will stay clear of him just about. Trying to keep that 68 car at bay at the moment. But does manage to hold him off once again into turn 1. Just a tight margin there between these guys fighting for every inch of the racetrack that they can. Will we see Bodine be the one to make the move on Johnson for the lead? No, instead, Sauter goes to second place.
anybody's going to make this move on Johnson right now, it would be Johnny Sauter. He is flying through the pack right now. But you have to wonder, you know, would you actually be more content running in second place in the draft than leading this race if you're in the 68 car?
Hard to say, but with how aggressive he's being, I'm sure he wants that lead right away as he pulls up to the back bumper of Jimmy Johnson. He's got a fast car behind him in the form of Harvick.
Saw some cars near the back of this pack move down into the bottom lane from the top. Eric Norris, Ricky Rudd, namely, they were slipping back. Were able to get down to the bottom, and with this much to go in the race, with where they're at, they have a shot here.
Without a question, Kevin Harvick just made a move for P2. Yet another shuffling behind this 48 who no one can seem to pass. It's a similar story to Daytona's early season race in the 500 when Johnson led quite a few laps in a row before he was finally overtaken for the lead. Kevin Harvick will be his next challenger. Nearing 10 to go, this race continues to wind down and away, and we're running out of laps. Harvick has Terry Labonte in the 14 behind him, and then Robbie Gordon in the 31. Down the backstretch as Harvick trying to build a run. Terry Labonte will be side by side for third, as here comes Harvick for first.
Harvick for the lead, and Robbie Gordon saw that and was like, "Hey, I want to overtake this 48 as well. I need the points." Robbie Gordon down to the bottom lane, and don't know if he still has most laps led, but
Believe he does. He did lead quite a few caution laps. So side by side for second is Harvick trying to figure out which lane to block. Robbie Gordon looking to get underneath this 20, and he will.
So we've got some interesting names down here in the bottom lane. We've got Todd Bodine, Eric Norris, young Clint Boyer. A lot of guys who would really, really benefit from a great finish today.
Without a question, and they are working towards it at the moment, trying to find a front-running position as we approach the final stage of this race. Ryan Vickers will be the next one to be pulled off of the racetrack. This secondary pack still exists at the moment. Tough break for the 81 of DJ Kennington, who had to pit for extra repairs and fuel and got stuck in this secondary pack. Might have had enough speed to be one of the front runners at this late stage, but unfortunately didn't have the track position for it. Still solid showing in his first race in the Cup Series, of course, but would have loved to have a little more of him up front. Down the back.
Bodine and Sadler trying to build up a run. Sadler going to leave out Bodine. He thinks he has a car to win this race.
And who can blame him? Robbie Gordon leading the race off of turn number 4, but Elliott Sadler has a big run as they leave the corner. Not a whole lot of help from behind as these two have pulled out in front of this third row just a little bit. 10 laps to go from Daytona as this race hits crunch time.
Let's wind down. The aggression goes up. You can't afford to sit and wait anymore. You got to make your moves when you can find them. And you got to find your friends where you can find them. Because if you don't, you're just going to get shuffled back.
5 cars in a line down the back stretch as we head towards turn 3. Martin Truex Jr. will jump under the 51, and Elliott Sadler looking for the race lead. He did get underneath Robbie Gordon. These two side by side for the lead now. Truex juxtaposed with his teammate up front, going with the 83 instead. I think teamwork's out the window at this point. Sadler has this lap. Gordon trying to hang tight on the outside. Doesn't have a lot of help. 51 can't quite get up to him, and Sadler clears him for the lead.
At this point in the going, your friends are where you find them. You don't look for teammates anymore. You got to look for who's going to help you get to victory lane. And at Daytona, everybody's going to want to go to victory lane.
Without a question. See John Wood in the 6 on the bottom there. Truex throwing a big block on him to keep him behind in 3rd place. Truex in 2nd, right behind this Red Bull 83. As we head off of turn 4, still a 16-car pack. You see Morgan Shepherd did stay with everybody. He's ahead of a couple cars right now back there. So it is 16 drivers for this race win as the laps continue to wind away. Truex trying to get the lead from Sadler. Can he get the nose underneath? He can! Here comes the 8.
I believe that's John Wood.
John Wood in the
Jack
6, yes.
Sprague. Jack Sprague has had a very strong showing today. Haven't talked about him a whole lot, but he's been up in this front pack the entire race. That 55 is strong.
Looking for that win. Everybody in this pack looking for that win. Down the front as Truex still leads, keeping the 6 behind him. Rookie Truex holding this first spot. It is a hodgepodge of so many different teams and drivers up front right now. Wood trying to look underneath Truex. 8 car slams the door on him.
Truex holding on for dear life, but you wonder how long that can be the case.
Jack Sprague looking to take second. Wood was thinking about the lead, but couldn't get there as the 55 went to P2.
Like this, the hardest spot to be in is the lead, and when you're a rookie driver, it makes it just that little bit harder. He's gonna have to prove that those stripes are just for show and that he deserves to be up at this front of the field with a screaming pack of cars behind him.
6 laps to go in this race. Sprague trying to get underneath the 8. He did. Here comes the 55 with help from Carl Edwards on the bottom. Johnny Sauter in line as well. Side by side as they leave turn 2.
And how about Ricky Rudd in his retirement tour, 4th on the bottom lane? What a scene it would be if he could go to victory lane.
And here comes Carl Edwards on the bottom, 97, who hasn't really been up front in this pack, at least in this portion of the race. Had led laps earlier, now to the lead as he takes the 68 fellow Ford with him. Johnny Sauter, who's been aggressive all night long trying to get this front spot. And now the 68 goes underneath the 97.
Johnny Sauter has driven the wheels off of that Aikens Ford, but how long can he keep it up here? Aggression has gone up in the late stages of this race. We have 5 laps to decide it. Who's going to come to victory lane?
5 laps to go as we leave turn 2. It's 68, 33, 77. Here comes Todd Bodine on the bottom. He's got Morgan Shepherd behind him. Down the backstretch side by side for second. How about this 89?
What a scene it would be if he could go to victory lane. Who would have expected that?
Got a fellow Dodge in the form of Kyle Busch behind him, but the 43 trying to get underneath him for third, couldn't. 4 to go, 68, 77, 89, your top 3. Busch underneath for third. 3 wide further back.
Sauter continues up front. Got Bodine behind him, Kyle Busch, Jimmy Johnson looking to make a move on Terry Labonte. Bodine for the race lead.
Got the whole of the field helping him on the bottom as they all duck down to the bottom. Here comes Todd Bodine to first. Kyle Busch is right behind him. Terry Labonte third in line. Problems for the 21 who's blowing up. This could be the end of the race if he doesn't make it back to the pits, which I do not believe he is going to.
He's trying to
and
make it.
And he will not. The caution comes out. This is the race for the win.
Todd Bodine, who was kicked from his ride as of last season. Gonna be a big move for Robbie Gordon.
3 wide down the back. Cars on the apron, Busch in the wall.
But it's all Todd Bodine up front. Bodine, Terry Labonte coming
couple
to the
of
line.
Pontiacs, 14 and 77. Todd Bodine has the lead to end the race, and he is going to win it at Daytona.
And talk about the wild card chances of Daytona. Todd Bodine has really struggled this season, has had a lot of issues with his confidence. He said before this race, I just don't know how much I have left.
And he's just got to complete 2 caution laps now under this yellow flag to win it. We saw cars in the wall there as they were all probably going in the oil of the 21. Kyle Busch in the 43 got up and into the wall going into turn 3. That was the 21 stopped on the bottom of the racetrack because he could not bring it back to pit lane with the engine out of power. And everybody went all over the place. The 43 went up the track, and Kyle Busch got into the wall. We saw the 3183 on the apron trying to avoid this mess. Kyle Busch went all the way back. Elliott Sadler lost some spots as well. Jimmy Johnson just got in front of his championship rival 31. It'll be a top 5 for Clint Boyer as well. Back-to-back top 5s at Daytona for the 4 team. White flag is in the air for Todd Bodine, as he's just got to make this final pace lap to win this race. And what a story for him.
The trials and the tribulations for Todd Bodine. It's been a struggle these past couple years. He's been a little down. He hasn't really had a whole lot of confidence in himself. But the Bodine family name is going to go to victory lane at Daytona, I believe, for the very first time. The Bodine name, a staple of the sport. But for the first time, can end up in Daytona victory lane.
Absolutely, and what a story for these guys. Just a half lap left. Also a great showing for Terry Labonte, making just one of a few planned starts remaining in the season in the 14 car. He will bring it home in second. A great result for him. Jimmy Johnson will just about get in front of Robbie Gordon for the 3rd spot, so not a whole lot of change in the standings between these two. And of course, as we mentioned, Clint Boyer, good race for him. He comes home in 5th. Would have loved to have a shot at the win, but caution comes out to end it. This will be the 2nd race in a row that ends under caution. And rounding turn 4 for the final time. Believe this might be the first win for Jasper as an organization as well.
I believe you're right. What a night for Jasper. What a night for Todd Bodine.
Without a question. And headed across the line, Todd Bodine. He concludes it a winner. The 77 car wins it at Daytona. What a feel-good story for them here today as he takes home his first win of the season. Just an unbelievable feat for this 77 team as they are your winners. And looking at the rest of the top 10, a couple of good showings for Roush as John Wood and Carl Edwards come home in 6th and 7th. Eric Norris, a nice result. He comes home in 8th, a top 10 for him. Johnny Sauter gets a top 10 as well in 9th, and Kevin Harvick will round out the top 10 drivers in the 20. He finishes in P10. But that will do it for coverage here from Daytona as Todd Bodine will be the wild card winner here in the Firecracker 400. He takes home a mighty impressive checkered flag. Caution and the race or not, a win's a win, and that 77 will be first to the flag here tonight. What a story for them. Next week, it'll be the halfway point in the season, race number 18. It'll be coming to you from Kentucky for the Sirius Satellite Radio 400. I'm Caden Reif on behalf of Nate with me in the booth tonight. A pleasure to have him along as always, and a pleasure to have you along with us as well. We'll see you then, and as always, have yourself a good one.